The massive alien armada loomed in Earth's orbit, a silent harbinger of doom. Admiral Cygnus of the Illyrian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, his tentacles twitching with anticipation. With a simple command, he unleashed a planet-wide electromagnetic pulse. Across the globe, defense systems went dark. Communications networks crackled and died. Earth was defenseless. Or so the Illyrians thought. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in a hardened facility shielded from the EMP, alarms blared. Lieutenant Commander Jeffrey Shaw sprinted down a corridor, his boots echoing on metal grates. He burst into the command center, where grim-faced officers huddled around holographic displays. "Lieutenant Commander Shaw reporting as ordered, sir," he said, snapping a crisp salute. General Hawthorne, head of the United Earth Defense Council, nodded curtly. "At ease, Shaw. The situation is critical. The Lazarus Protocol has been activated." Shaw's eyes widened. The Lazarus Protocol was more myth than reality to most military personnel, a last-ditch defense system, whispered about in hushed tones. "Sir, is it true?" Shaw asked. "The quantum entanglement weapons?" "It's all true," Hawthorne confirmed, "and you're the only one who can bring them online." The general gestured to a holomap showing a network of orbital platforms encircling the Earth. "These platforms house our secret weapon. They're shielded from the EMP, but the activation sequence must be done manually from this facility." Shaw nodded, his mind racing. He was a combat pilot and weapons specialist, but this was beyond anything he'd encountered before. "Time is critical," Hawthorne continued. "Illyrian dropships are already landing in major cities. They're establishing beachheads, rounding up civilians. Millions of lives are at stake." Shaw's jaw clenched. "I won't let you down, sir." He moved to the quantum targeting array, fingers flying over holographic controls. The system was complex, unlike anything he'd trained on. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he worked, acutely aware of the countdown timer ticking away. Suddenly, the facility shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. "Illyrian ground forces," an officer shouted. "They've breached the outer defenses." Shaw redoubled his efforts, inputting command codes and activation sequences. The platforms were powering up, but too slowly. He could hear weapons fire in the corridors outside. Just as he entered the final command, the blast doors exploded inward. Illyrian shock troops poured into the command center, energy weapons blazing. Shaw dove for cover, drawing his sidearm. He returned fire, downing 2 aliens before a bolt caught him in the shoulder. Gritting his teeth against the pain, Shaw lunged for the targeting array. His fingers slammed down on the activation key just as another energy bolt struck him in the chest. As he collapsed, Shaw saw a strange energy field emanating from the orbital platforms, enveloping the Earth. Then darkness claimed him. In orbit, Admiral Cygnus stared at his sensor displays in disbelief. Impossible energy readings cascaded across the screens. Several smaller Illyrian ships simply vanished, while others reported critical system malfunctions. "Full retreat," Cygnus bellowed, panic evident in his voice. "Abandon ground forces and withdraw immediately." As the Illyrian Armada fled in disarray, they left behind their stunned ground troops and a galaxy-shaking revelation. Earth possessed technology beyond their comprehension. The invasion had failed, and humanity's greatest secret was now known to the stars. The quantum field shimmered around Earth, a gossamer curtain of energy visible even from the surface. Commander Jeffrey Shaw blinked groggily, his vision swimming into focus. The stark white ceiling of a medical bay greeted him, along with the steady beep of monitoring equipment. "Easy there, Commander," a gruff voice said. "You took quite a hit." Shaw turned his head, wincing at the pain in his chest and shoulder. General Marcus Steele stood beside the bed, his weathered face etched with concern and exhaustion. "Sir," Shaw croaked, his throat dry. "The invasion. Did we stop them?" Steele nodded, handing Shaw a cup of water. "We did, thanks to you. The Illyrians retreated, but we've got a whole new set of problems on our hands." As Shaw sipped the water, Steele outlined the situation. The quantum entanglement weapons had worked beyond their wildest expectations, creating an impenetrable barrier around Earth. But that same barrier now trapped them, cutting off all interstellar travel and communication. "We're flying blind here, Commander," Steele said, pacing the small room. "Our orbital assets are offline, and we've got scattered reports of Illyrian holdouts across the globe. I need you back on your feet as soon as possible." Shaw nodded, already feeling the pull of duty overriding his body's protests. "What's our next move, sir?" Steele's eyes hardened. "We're assembling a task force to root out the remaining Illyrian strongholds. Your first target is Sydney. Intelligence suggests a large alien force has dug in there." Before Shaw could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Steele's comlink crackled to life, and a frantic voice filled the room. "General, we've got a situation at the Chicago camp. Major Harper's team is under heavy fire." Steele's teeth gritted. "Patch me through to Harper. Commander, rest up. You'll be wheels up for Sydney in 48 hours. As Steele rushed out, Shaw eased himself up, gritting his teeth against the pain. Through the window of his room, he could see the shimmering barrier in the sky. Earth's savior and potential doom, all wrapped up in one enigmatic energy field. Thousands of miles away, Major Jack Harper ducked behind a crumbling concrete barrier, plasma bolts sizzling overhead. The stench of ozone and burning flesh filled the air as his team exchanged fire with the Illyrian forces, attempting to recapture the liberated concentration camp. "Martinez, I need suppressing fire on that left flank," Harper shouted into his comm. "Chen, how are we looking on those heavy weapons?" "Almost there, sir." Chen's voice crackled back. "These alien power cells are tricky, but I think I've got it figured out." Harper risked a glance over the barrier. The Illyrians were pressing hard, their insectoid forms skittering across the ruined cityscape. He'd underestimated their numbers, and now thousands of freed prisoners were at risk of being recaptured or killed. Suddenly the ground shook as a massive explosion rocked the Illyrian line. Harper grinned as he saw Chen manning a captured alien artillery piece, its energy beams cutting swathes through the enemy ranks. "That's more like it," Harper yelled. "All units, push forward. Let's show these bugs what happens when they mess with humanity." As the battle raged in Chicago, Dr. Elena Rodriguez floated in the microgravity of her orbital laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays of the quantum barrier. Her team worked feverishly, analyzing data streams and running simulations. "Dr. Rodriguez," one of her assistants called out, "I'm detecting an anomaly in the barrier's energy signature. It's expanding." Elena's eyes widened as she examined the data. The quantum field was indeed growing, pushing outward from Earth at an accelerating rate. If left unchecked, it could engulf the entire solar system. "Contact General Steele immediately," she ordered. "We need to find a way to contain this, or we might end up destroying everything we're trying to protect." Back on the ground in a secret facility buried deep beneath the Nevada desert, Dr. Alexander Reed hunched over a dissected piece of Illyrian technology. His team had made significant progress in understanding the aliens' advanced propulsion and energy systems, but time was not on their side. "Dr. Reed," a voice called from across the lab, "we've managed to activate the alien communication device." Reed rushed over, his heart pounding. As the device hummed to life, a holographic display materialized, showing a star chart of the local galactic arm. Dozens of Illyrian fleet signatures blinked ominously, converging on a point just outside Earth's solar system. "My God," Reed whispered, "they're coming back, and in much greater numbers." As the gravity of Earth's situation became clear, Commander Shaw prepared for his mission to Sydney. His wounds still ached, but persistence coursed through him as he suited up in the new combat armor his team had been issued. "Commander," a young lieutenant said, handing him a data pad. "Latest intel on the Sydney stronghold. The Illyrians have converted the Opera House into some kind of command center. They've got heavy defenses and are using human shields." Shaw nodded grimly, studying the tactical overlay. "We'll need to be surgical on this one. No room for error." As his team boarded the stealth dropship, Shaw cast one last look at the shimmering barrier overhead. Earth had won the first battle, but the war was just getting started. With the quantum field expanding, stranded Illyrian forces fighting desperately, and the looming threat of a massive counterattack, humanity faced challenges on all fronts. The dropship's engines roared to life, and Shaw felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. As they lifted off, heading towards the battle that awaited them in Sydney, he knew that the fate of Earth and perhaps the entire solar system hung in the balance. As the stealth dropship approached Sydney, Commander Shaw studied the holographic display of the city. The iconic Opera House, once a symbol of human culture, now stood as a twisted monument to Illyrian occupation. Its gleaming white sails were marred by alien technology, pulsing with an eerie blue glow. 30 seconds to drop. The pilot's voice crackled over the comm. Shaw turned to his team, a mix of hardened veterans and fresh recruits, all equipped with the latest in reverse-engineered Illyrian tech. "Remember, we go in fast and quiet," Shaw said, his voice steady despite the pain still lingering in his chest. "Martinez, you're on point. Chen, cover R6. We hit their communications array first, then push for the main structure." The team nodded, faces set with unshakable focus. As the dropship's rear hatch opened, the first rays of dawn painted the sky in hues of orange and pink. The juxtaposition of natural beauty against the backdrop of alien invasion wasn't lost on Shaw. They rappelled down into the city's ruins, the early morning mist providing additional cover. The streets were eerily quiet, devoid of the usual bustle of human life. Occasionally, the silence was broken by the skittering of Illyrian patrols or the distant wail of alien klaxons. Shaw's team moved like ghosts through the urban battlefield, using their new cloaking devices to slip past Illyrian sentries. As they approached the Opera House, the alien presence grew denser. Insectoid guards chittered to each other in their incomprehensible language, their compound eyes scanning for threats. "Way Martinez, deploy the sonic disruptors," Shaw whispered into his comm. Martinez nodded, pulling out a device that looked like a small silver sphere. He activated it and tossed it towards the nearest group of Illyrian guards. The sphere emitted a high-frequency pulse that sent the aliens into spasms, their exoskeletons vibrating painfully. In the ensuing chaos, Shaw's team struck. They moved with practiced efficiency, neutralizing the stunned Illyrians with precision shots from their energy weapons. The air filled with the acrid smell of ozone and burnt chitin. As they breached the Opera House, Shaw felt a familiar surge of adrenaline. The interior had been grotesquely transformed, its elegant architecture fused with alien biomechanical constructs. Pulsing tendrils of unknown material snaked along the walls, carrying data and energy to various Illyrian systems. "Chen, start the hack," Shaw ordered as they reached a central control node. Chen plugged in a device of human design, its interface adapting to the alien technology. "Sir, I'm detecting a massive energy signature below us," Chen reported, his eyes widening. "There's definitely something big down there." Shaw's instincts screamed danger. "Everyone, prepare for heavy resistance. We're going deeper." They fought their way down level by level, encountering increasingly fierce resistance. The team's reverse-engineered shields flickered under sustained Illyrian fire, but held. Shaw lost count of the number of aliens he'd taken down, his focus narrowing to the rhythm of combat. Aim, fire, move. Finally, they reached a massive blast door, its surface covered in alien glyphs. Chen worked furiously to bypass its security, while the rest of the team held off waves of Illyrian reinforcements. "Got it!" Chen shouted as the door began to slide open with a pneumatic hiss. The chamber beyond was a revelation. A vast holographic display dominated the center, showing detailed star maps and fleet movements. Illyrian officers scurried about, their movements frantic as they realized their sanctum had been breached. "Secure that data," Shaw ordered, pointing to what appeared to be the main control console. As his team fanned out, subduing the Illyrian command staff, Shaw approached the holographic display. What he saw chilled him to the core. The display showed a massive Illyrian armada, far larger than the invasion force they'd repelled, assembling just beyond the edge of Earth's solar system. And at its head was a ship of truly terrifying proportions, easily dwarfing anything in humanity's arsenal. "Sir," Martinez called out, holding up a strange, crystalline device. "I think you need to see this." Before Shaw could respond, the facility shook violently. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling. "Aye, Commander, this is Steele." His comm crackled to life. "We're detecting major seismic activity across the globe. Whatever you found down there, we need it now. The situation up here is deteriorating fast." Shaw looked at his team, then back at the holographic display of the approaching Illyrian armada. They had won this battle, but the war was about to enter a new, terrifying phase. "Roger that, General," Shaw replied, his mind already racing with the implications of their discovery. "We're securing critical intel now, but sir, we're going to need a bigger boat." As Shaw's team worked to extract every bit of data they could from the Illyrian Command Center, the first tremors of a new global crisis were beginning to ripple across the planet. Humanity had repelled the initial invasion, but the true test of their dedication was just beginning. Thousands of miles above Earth, Dr. Elena Rodriguez floated in the sterile confines of her orbital laboratory, her eyes fixed on the holographic displays surrounding her. The data streaming in from sensors across the globe painted a troubling picture. "Dr. Rodriguez," one of her assistants called out, his voice tight with concern. "The quantum field's expansion rate is accelerating. Energy readings from Earth's core are off the charts." Elena's mind raced as she processed the information. The quantum barrier, Earth's savior against the Illyrian invasion, was now drawing massive amounts of energy from the planet's core. The implications were staggering. "Run a simulation on long-term effects," she ordered, her fingers flying over holographic controls. "Focus on magnetic field stability and tectonic activity." As the simulation unfolded before her, Elena felt a cold knot of dread form in her stomach. The expanding quantum field was causing subtle but increasing gravitational anomalies across the planet. These disturbances were already beginning to affect weather patterns and ocean currents. "This is Dr. Rodriguez to General Steele," she spoke into her comm, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Sir, we have a serious problem. The quantum barrier is destabilizing Earth's core. If we don't find a way to control it, we could be looking at catastrophic geological events within weeks, possibly days." There was a moment of static before Steele's gruff voice replied. "Understood, Doctor. I'm dispatching Dr. Reed and his team to the orbital platforms immediately. They'll attempt to modify the quantum field generators. In the meantime, I need you to work on a way to sever the connection between the barrier and Earth's core." "Yes, sir," Elena responded, already mentally outlining the monumental task ahead. "I'll need access to all data from the Sydney operation. If the Illyrians have any relevant technology, we need to know about it now." As she ended the transmission, Elena turned to her team. Their faces reflected the mix of fear and drive she felt. "All right, people, we're in a race against time. Let's get to work." Meanwhile, on the devastated streets of Chicago, Major Jack Harper crouched behind the burnt-out husk of an overturned car. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of plasma discharge. His team was spread out across several blocks, engaged in a fierce firefight with a group of entrenched Illyrian soldiers. "Martinez, I need that heavy weapon support now." Harper barked into his comm. "Chen, how's our flank looking?" "Holding for now, sir?" Chen's voice crackled back. "But these bugs are getting smarter. They're adapting to our tactics." Harper gritted his teeth. The Illyrians were indeed learning, becoming more unpredictable with each engagement. But so were the humans. His forces had become experts in guerrilla warfare, using Earth's terrain and their intimate knowledge of urban environments to outmaneuver the technologically superior aliens. A series of explosions rocked the Illyrian position, followed by the distinctive whine of human-modified alien energy weapons. Harper allowed himself a grim smile. Martinez had come through with the fire support. "All units, push forward," Harper ordered, vaulting over his cover. "Let's show these bugs what happens when they mess with our home." As Harper's forces advanced, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, but they were pushing back. The tide was turning, one block, one city at a time. Little did Harper know that far above the Earth, events were unfolding that would soon change the entire nature of the war. Dr. Alexander Reed and his team of engineers were about to embark on a mission that could save the planet or doom it entirely. Reed floated outside the massive orbital platform, the curvature of Earth visible behind him. The quantum barrier shimmered like a gossamer curtain, beautiful and terrifying in its implications. "All right, team, let's make this quick and clean," Reed's voice echoed through the comm channel. "We need to install the control mechanisms on all 6 platforms. Remember, one mistake could destabilize the entire field." As his team spread out to their assigned platforms, Reed began the delicate process of integrating the new Illyrian-inspired control device into the quantum field generator. His hands moved with practiced precision, but sweat beaded on his brow inside his helmet. Suddenly, a warning alarm blared through his suit's speakers. "Dr. Reed," one of his engineers shouted, "we've got a power surge in the primary core." Reed's eyes widened as he saw the quantum field fluctuate, ripples of energy cascading across its surface. "All teams disengage immediately," he ordered, but it was too late. A massive surge of energy pulsed through the orbital platforms, momentarily overloading their systems. Reed watched in horror as a section of the quantum barrier wavered and then parted, creating a temporary rift. "Control, are you seeing this?" Reed called out, his voice tight with urgency. "Affirmative, Doctor," came the response from Earth. "We've detected an anomaly. Wait, we're picking up something. An object just passed through the rift." Reed's blood ran cold as he realized the implications. Something had breached Earth's defenses, and they had no idea what it was or where it was going. As the rift closed and the quantum field stabilized, Reed knew that their mission had just become far more complicated. They had to regain control of the barrier, but now they also had to deal with an unknown threat that had slipped through their fingers. The engineers worked feverishly to complete the modifications, acutely aware that every second counted. As Reed finalized the installation on the last platform, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were now in a race against time on multiple fronts. Back on Earth, in the hidden depths of the Nevada Desert Facility, a team of scientists huddled around a strange crystalline device. It was the artifact that Commander Shaw's team had recovered from the Illyrian Command Center in Sydney. Dr. Amelia Carpenter, a brilliant xenotechnologist, carefully manipulated the device's controls. "I think I've almost got it," she murmured, her brow furrowed in concentration. Suddenly, the crystal pulsed with an inner light, and a holographic display sprang to life above it. The scientists gasped collectively as they saw a detailed schematic of what appeared to be an immense Illyrian warship. "My God," Dr. Carpenter breathed. This is their flagship. The technical specifications are beyond anything we've encountered so far." As the team pored over the data, analyzing weapon systems and propulsion technology far beyond human understanding, a cold realization settled over them. The Illyrians weren't just coming back. They were bringing a level of firepower that could potentially overwhelm even the quantum barrier. In a secure briefing room, General Marcus Steele absorbed the reports from all fronts. Commander Shaw's successful operation in Sydney, Dr. Rodriguez's alarming findings about the quantum barrier, the setback with the orbital platforms, and now this new intelligence about the approaching Illyrian Armada. Steele's weathered face was set in grim lines as he made his decision. "It's time," he said to his assembled staff. "Initiate the formation of the Quantum Response Force. We need our best and brightest working together if we're going to survive what's coming." As orders went out across the globe, assembling an elite team of soldiers, scientists, and engineers, humanity stood on the precipice of a new chapter in its fight for survival. The Illyrians were returning in force. The very technology that saved Earth was now threatening to tear it apart, and somewhere in the vast Siberian tundra, an undetected alien scout ship was silently gathering intelligence on Earth's defenses. The stage was set for a conflict that would determine not just the fate of humanity, but potentially the entire solar system. And at the center of it all, the newly formed Quantum Response Force prepared to face challenges beyond anything they had encountered before. The newly formed Quantum Response Force wasted no time in mobilizing for their first major operation. Within hours of General Steele's order, a stealth transport carrying Commander Jeffrey Shaw and his elite squad of soldiers, along with Dr. Elena Rodriguez and her team of scientists and engineers, was speeding towards the heart of the Amazon rainforest. As the transport neared its destination, Shaw briefed his team on the mission parameters. Intel suggests a significant Illyrian presence in this sector. Our primary objective is to secure their supply depot and extract any valuable technology or information we can get our hands on. Dr. Rodriguez chimed in, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The reverse-engineered Illyrian stealth tech we're using should get us close undetected. Once we're in, my team will focus on accessing their computer systems and disabling security measures. The dense canopy of the Amazon stretched out beneath them, a sea of green hiding untold alien secrets. As they approached the coordinates of the Illyrian depot, the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. "Commander, we're picking up some unusual energy signatures. The depot appears to be significantly larger than our initial estimates." Shaw's eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic display. The facility wasn't just larger, it was massive, extending deep underground like an iceberg of alien technology. "Adjust our approach vector," he ordered. "We'll set down half a click from the perimeter and proceed on foot." The moment the transport touched down, Shaw's team fanned out, their movements silent and precise. Dr. Rodriguez and her scientists followed close behind, laden with specialized equipment. The humid air clung to their skin as they made their way through the undergrowth, the sounds of the rainforest masking their approach. As they neared the edge of the clearing housing the depot, Shaw held up a closed fist, signaling the team to halt. Something wasn't right. The facility's defenses seemed quiet, too quiet. "Hernandez-McCrae," Shaw whispered into his comm. "Take point and scout ahead. Something's off here." The two soldiers melted into the foliage. Minutes ticked by in tense silence. Suddenly, Shaw's comm crackled to life. "Commander," Hernandez's voice was tight with urgency. "We've got multiple hostiles in concealed positions. The rest of his words were drowned out by a deafening explosion of energy weapons fire. The jungle erupted into chaos as hidden Illyrian soldiers revealed themselves, their plasma bolts scorching the air. "Ambush!" Shaw roared, diving for cover behind a massive tree trunk. "Return fire and fall back to defensive positions." The QRF soldiers reacted with practiced efficiency, their own weapons blazing as they sought cover. Dr. Rodriguez and her team scrambled for safety, protected by a phalanx of armored troops. Shaw's mind raced as he assessed the situation. The Illyrians had been waiting for them, but how? Had their stealth approach been compromised? He pushed the questions aside, focusing on the immediate threat. "Alpha Team, suppress the enemy's left flank," he barked into his comm. "Bravo, I want you to circle around and hit them from behind. Dr. Rodriguez, stay put until we secure a path to the facility." The battle raged through the dense jungle, trees splintering and vegetation igniting under the barrage of advanced weaponry. Shaw's tactical acumen shone as he directed his forces, using the terrain to outmaneuver the numerically superior Illyrian defenders. As the QRF began to gain the upper hand, a blood-curdling roar echoed through the forest, followed by the sound of snapping trees and terrified screams, both human and Illyrian. "What the hell was that?" one of Shaw's soldiers shouted. Before anyone could respond, a massive creature burst into the clearing. It looked like a nightmarish fusion of Earth fauna and alien biology. A jaguar's sleek form bulked up to impossible proportions, its skin covered in iridescent scales and its mouth filled with tentacle-like appendages. "Oh my God," Dr. Rodriguez gasped, her face pale. "They've been experimenting on local wildlife." The monstrous creation tore through the battlefield, indiscriminately attacking both human and Illyrian forces. More hybrid creatures followed in its wake, each more horrifying than the last. New plan, Shaw growled, his voice steady despite the chaos. Concentrate fire on those things. We need to reach the depot before this gets any worse. As the battle raged on, now complicated by the presence of the bioengineered monstrosities, Dr. Rodriguez and her team inched closer to the facility's entrance. They worked frantically to bypass the security systems, acutely aware of the fierce combat raging around them. "I'm in," Dr. Rodriguez announced triumphantly as the depot's massive doors began to slide open. "Commander, we have access." Shaw immediately began coordinating a fighting retreat into the facility. His soldiers moved with practiced precision, laying down covering fire as they fell back toward the entrance. The hybrid creatures, now the primary threat, pursued relentlessly. As the last of the QRF members made it inside, Shaw smacked his palm on the door controls. The massive portal slid shut with a resounding boom, cutting off the sounds of battle and the roars of the monstrous creations. Inside, the team found themselves in a cavernous chamber filled with row upon row of alien technology. Vehicles, weapons, and devices beyond human understanding stretched as far as the eye could see. "My God," Dr. Rodriguez breathed, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and scientific curiosity. "This is incredible. The advancements we could make with this technology." Shaw nodded grimly. "Let's hope it's enough to turn the tide. Doctor, you and your team start downloading everything you can from their systems. We'll secure the perimeter and look for anything we can use immediately." As the scientists set to work, Shaw's soldiers spread out, securing the vast underground complex. The sheer scale of the depot was staggering, with levels extending deep into the earth. Suddenly, one of Dr. Rodriguez's assistants called out, "Doctor, you need to see this." On a massive holographic display, they watched in horror as the quantum barrier surrounding Earth pulsed and fluctuated wildly. Data streamed across the screen, indicating widespread electromagnetic disturbances and blackouts across the globe. "The barrier," Dr. Rodriguez whispered. "It's becoming unstable. If we don't find a way to control it soon..." She didn't need to finish the thought. Everyone understood the implications. As if to underscore the point, the facility shuddered as a distant tremor shook the earth. "Commander Shaw," one of his soldiers called out, "you're going to want to take a look at this." In a secured section of the depot, they found a massive device. Its design clearly Illyrian, but unlike anything they'd seen before. It hummed with impossibly strong energy, tendrils of quantum particles dancing around its surface. Dr. Rodriguez's eyes lit up with realization. This could be it, a localized quantum field generator. If we can understand how it works, we might be able to use it to stabilize the barrier. As the team worked to understand the alien device and extract as much data and technology as possible, they were unaware of the larger events unfolding across the globe. The quantum barrier's instability was causing havoc, and in the depths of Siberia, an Illyrian scout ship was transmitting vital intelligence to the approaching Armada. Time was running out. The QRF had made a crucial breakthrough, but with the barrier threatening to tear the planet apart and Grand Marshal Vexcor's fleet drawing ever closer, the question remained, would it be enough? Commander Shaw looked at the massive quantum generator, then back at his team. "All right, people, let's see what this thing can do. The clock's ticking, and we've got a world to save." Save. As if in response to Shaw's words, the facility shuddered violently. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling as the ground beneath their feet trembled. "Status report," Shaw barked into his comm. "Sir, we're detecting massive seismic activity," one of his officers replied, voice tight with tension. "It's not just here. We're getting reports of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions worldwide." Dr. Rodriguez's face paled as she checked her data pad. The quantum barrier, it's expanding at an unprecedented rate. The electromagnetic disturbances are causing widespread blackouts and communication failures. Shaw's mind raced, processing the influx of information. He turned to his team, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. "Change of plans. We need to accelerate our extraction. Priority 1 is securing that quantum field generator and any other critical tech we can get our hands on. As the team scrambled to action, the facility's emergency lights flickered ominously. The distant sound of collapsing tunnels echoed through the cavernous space. "Dr. Rodriguez," Shaw called out, "focus on that prototype. If it can help us control the barrier, it might be our only shot at saving the planet." Elena nodded, her fingers flying over the alien console as she worked to decipher its mechanisms. "I've never seen anything like this," she muttered, eyes wide with a mix of scientific awe and urgency. "The energy output is off the charts." While the scientists worked feverishly, Shaw coordinated his soldiers to secure the perimeter and prepare for rapid evacuation. The ground continued to shake, each tremor more violent than the last. Suddenly, a deafening roar filled the air. The massive doors they'd sealed earlier began to buckle and warp under immense pressure. "Those hybrid creatures," one of Shaw's soldiers gasped. "They're trying to break through." Shaw gritted his teeth. "Reinforce that entrance. We need to buy the science team more time." As half the squad rushed to fortify the doors, the other half worked to load the quantum field generator and other salvage tech onto their transport vehicles. The air grew thick with tension, punctuated by the screeching of metal and inhuman howls from beyond the barrier. Dr. Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos. "Commander, I think I've got it. This device, it's not just a generator. It's a localized quantum field manipulator. If we can adapt it to work with Earth's expanding barrier, we might be able to stabilize it." Before Shaw could respond, a massive explosion rocked the facility. The doors blew inward, and a wave of terrifying hybrid creatures poured through the opening. "Fall back!" Shaw roared, laying down suppressing fire as his team retreated deeper into the facility. "Rodriguez, is that thing portable?" Elena nodded, her face streaked with sweat and grime. "Yes, but it's heavy. We'll need help to move it." "You heard the doctor," Shaw barked to his nearby soldiers. "Get that device loaded up now." As the team fought their way through the collapsing facility, Shaw's calm crackled to life. It was General Steele, his voice grave. "Shaw, the situation has escalated beyond our worst projections. I'm implementing Operation Sanctuary, worldwide evacuation to underground shelters. Your mission is now critical. We need that Illyrian tech if we're going to have any chance of surviving this." "Understood, sir," Shaw replied, ducking as a piece of ceiling crashed down nearby. "We're on our way out now." Just as they reached their transport vehicles, a new threat appeared on their radar. An unidentified aircraft was rapidly approaching their position. "Incoming bogey," Shaw's pilot shouted. "It's not one of ours." Shaw's blood ran cold as he watched the sleek alien craft decloak above the burning rainforest. "Illyrian scout ship," he growled. "Everyone, battle stations, protect that quantum device at all costs." The sky erupted in a furious exchange of energy weapons as Shaw's team engaged the Illyrian ship. Trees ignited, filling the air with thick smoke as the battle raged. Amidst the chaos, a young soldier named Corporal Michael Reed caught Shaw's attention. With remarkable skill and bravery, Reed managed to commandeer one of the salvaged Illyrian anti-aircraft guns. "Cover me," Reed shouted, swinging the massive weapon towards the scout ship. What followed was a heart-stopping duel between the young human soldier and the seasoned Illyrian pilot. Reed's commitment paid off as a well-placed shot clipped the scout ship's wing, sending it into a spiraling descent. As the Illyrian craft crashed into the burning jungle, Shaw ordered a team to secure the wreckage. They returned minutes later with a group of stunned but very much alive Illyrian prisoners. "Sir," one of Shaw's officers reported, "we've captured their commander. Says his name is Lieutenant Zarn." Shaw nodded grimly. "Secure them for transport. They might be our best source of intelligence on the incoming invasion." As the team prepared for extraction, Dr. Rodriguez made a startling discovery. The activation of the quantum field generator during the battle had created a small, stable zone within the chaotic barrier. "Commander," she called out, excitement clear in her voice despite the dire circumstances. This could be the key to controlling the global quantum field. Shaw allowed himself a moment of hope before refocusing on the immediate challenges. All right, people, let's move out. We've got a long journey ahead through some very unstable territory. As they loaded up the transport vehicles with the quantum generator, other salvage tech, and their Illyrian prisoners, the jungle around them burned. In the distance, they could see the glow of fresh lava flows from newly formed volcanoes. Shaw took one last look at the devastated Illyrian facility before climbing into the lead vehicle. As they set off, navigating through the treacherous, quake-ravaged landscape, he knew that the real battle was just beginning. Unbeknownst to Shaw and his team, high above the Earth, Grand Marshal Vexcor received Lieutenant Zarn's final transmission. The Illyrian fleet adjusted course, their target now clear. Secure the quantum field generator and crush Operation Sanctuary. As the QRF raced back to headquarters with their precious cargo, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The expanding quantum barrier threatened to tear the planet apart, while the Illyrian Armada loomed ever closer. In this desperate hour, the technology they'd salvaged from the Amazon depot might be Earth's last hope for survival. The convoy of QRF vehicles rumbled through the devastated landscape, tires crunching over fallen debris and navigating around gaping fissures in the earth. Commander Shaw gripped the steering wheel tightly, his eyes darting between the treacherous road ahead and the rearview mirror, where he could see the captured Illyrian quantum field generator secured in the truck behind him. "How's our cargo holding up, Rodriguez?" Shaw called over the comms. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's voice crackled back, tinged with a mixture of excitement and concern. "The generator's stable, Commander, but I've made a disturbing discovery. This device requires a specific type of exotic matter as fuel, something we don't have on Earth." Shaw's brow furrowed. "Can we synthesize it?" "Possibly," Elena replied, "but it would require resources and time we may not have." As they crested a hill, Shaw's breath caught in his throat. Below them, a sprawling city lay in ruins, its skyline shattered and streets choked with rubble. Streams of people poured out of the wreckage, carrying what little they could salvage. "My God," Corporal Reed whispered from the passenger seat. Shaw made a split-second decision. "We're taking them with us," he announced, earning surprised looks from his team. "I know it'll slow us down, but we can't leave these people to die." The convoy ground to a halt at the city's edge. As Shaw's team worked to organize the refugees, a man with a dust-covered suit and wild eyes approached. "Please," he begged, clutching Shaw's arm. "There are more trapped in the subway tunnels. We couldn't get them out." Shaw nodded grimly. "Reed, take a team and check it out. Be quick, we can't linger here long." As Reed's group disappeared into the ruins, Dr. Rodriguez continued her analysis of the quantum field generator. Her fingers flew over her tablet, brow furrowed in concentration. "Commander," she called out, "I think I found a way to create small, stable bubbles within the quantum barrier using this device. It could potentially allow safe passage through the field." "That's good news, Doctor," Shaw replied. "But let's focus on getting back to headquarters first. We'll need a lot more than what we have here to implement something like that." Reed and his team returned, guiding a group of shell-shock survivors. Among them was a young woman cradling an infant, her eyes wide with fear and gratitude. As the expanded convoy set off once more, Shaw couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Every minute delayed was another minute closer to the Illyrian invasion. The journey through the devastated towns and cities was a grim testament to the global chaos. They passed burning buildings, looted stores, and crowds of people desperately trying to reach the Operation Sanctuary shelters. Military checkpoints had been established at key intersections, with soldiers struggling to maintain order amidst the panic. In the back of the convoy, Lieutenant Zarn, the captured Illyrian officer, finally broke under questioning. "Your barrier won't stop them," he hissed, his alien features contorted in a mix of fear and defiance. "They have phased technology. They'll pass through it like it's not even there." Shaw's blood ran cold at this revelation. He immediately relayed the information to General Steele at headquarters. As they approached the outskirts of the QRF base, the sky above them began to shimmer and distort. The quantum barrier, once invisible, now resembled a massive, undulating aurora that stretched from horizon to horizon. "Look!" one of the refugees cried out, pointing upward. Tiny points of light had appeared in the turbulent sky, growing larger with each passing second. The Illyrian fleet had arrived. Corporal Reed, still manning the captured anti-aircraft gun, suddenly shouted, "Incoming Illyrian scout ship!" The sleek alien craft decloaked directly above them, its weapons charging with an ominous hum. Shaw barked orders, and the convoy scattered, taking cover where they could. Reed swung the massive gun around, tracking the scout ship's movements. The air crackled with energy as he opened fire, streams of alien weaponry lancing out at their attacker. The scout ship weaved and dodged, returning fire and forcing the QRF vehicles to perform evasive maneuvers. Civilians screamed and huddled in terror as the ground around them erupted in explosions. In a daring move, Reed anticipated the scout ship's next vector and unleashed a barrage of fire directly into its path. The alien craft couldn't evade in time and took multiple direct hits. It spiraled downward, trailing smoke and debris before crashing into a nearby hillside. "Nice shot, Reed," Shaw called out, but his victory was short-lived. The comms crackled to life with an urgent message from headquarters. "Commander Shaw." General Steele's voice was grim. "We've detected multiple breaches in the quantum barrier. The Illyrians are using their phase technology to penetrate our defenses. You need to get that generator here now. It might be our only chance to adapt and fight back." Shaw gritted his teeth, looking at the shimmering sky above and the points of light that were rapidly resolving into the shapes of Illyrian warships. They were so close to their goal, but with the invasion already beginning, every second counted. "Understood, General," Shaw replied. "We're almost there, but we've got civilians with us. We can't abandon them now." There was a pause before Steele responded. "Do what you have to, Shaw, but remember, the fate of the entire planet rests on getting that generator to us, whatever the cost." As they approached the final stretch to the QRF headquarters, Shaw could see the massive doors of the underground facility beginning to open. A team of scientists and soldiers poured out, ready to receive the quantum field generator and the wealth of Illyrian technology they'd salvaged. But between them and safety lay a gauntlet of chaos. The quantum barrier's instability had caused massive sinkholes to open in the Earth, while debris from the barrier's interaction with the atmosphere rained down around them. And above it all, the Illyrian ships drew ever closer, their weapons charging as they prepared to launch their full assault on humanity's last line of defense. Shaw looked at his team, the refugees they'd rescued, and the precious cargo they carried. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the final push. "All right, people," he said, his voice steady despite the mayhem surrounding them. "Let's finish this." With that, the convoy surged forward, racing against time and the approaching alien armada, carrying with them what might be humanity's last hope for survival. The convoy surged forward, tires screeching as they navigated the treacherous terrain. Commander Shaw gripped the steering wheel, his squeezing hard with tension. The shimmering quantum barrier loomed overhead, its undulating patterns casting an eerie glow on the devastated landscape. "There it is," Corporal Reed shouted, pointing ahead. The massive doors of the underground QRF headquarters came into view, slowly opening to reveal a flurry of activity. Scientists and soldiers poured out, ready to receive their precious cargo. Shaw brought the lead vehicle to a halt, jumping out before it had fully stopped. "Move, move, move," he barked, directing his team to unload the quantum field generator and other salvaged Illyrian tech. Dr. Rodriguez supervised the transfer of the generator, her eyes constantly darting between the equipment and the chaotic sky above. "Careful with that," she snapped, as two soldiers nearly dropped a component. "This may be our only shot at survival." As the last of the equipment disappeared into the underground facility, Shaw turned to address the refugees they'd rescued along the way. "You'll be safe here," he assured them, gesturing towards a group of medical personnel approaching to assist. "We'll do everything we can to protect you." The young woman with the infant he'd noticed earlier caught his eye. She nodded gratefully, clutching her child close as she was led away. Inside the facility, General Steele waited, his face a mask of fierce dedication. "Good work, Shaw," he said, clasping the commander's shoulder. "Now we need to move fast. The Illyrians are already breaching the barrier at multiple points." They hurried to the command center, a vast room filled with screens displaying real-time data from around the globe. Shaw's breath caught as he took in the full extent of the invasion. Illyrian ships dotted the skies over major cities, their weapons raining destruction on Earth's defenses. "Dr. Rodriguez," Steele called out, "what's the status on the quantum field generator?" Elena looked up from her tablet, her brow furrowed. "We're facing significant challenges, sir. The device requires exotic matter as fuel, something we don't have readily available on Earth." Dr. Alexander Reed, a particle physicist, stepped forward. "I may have a solution," he offered. "We could use particle accelerators to synthesize small quantities of the required material." "How long would that take?" Shaw asked, acutely aware of the ticking clock. Reed grimaced. "It's a slow process and resource-intensive. We're looking at days, maybe weeks, to produce enough." Steele smacked his head on a nearby console. "We don't have weeks. We barely have hours." As if to emphasize his point, the facility shook violently. Alarms blared as a massive energy discharge erupted from the quantum barrier outside, temporarily overpowering the sensors. "Status report," Steele demanded. A technician called out, "The barrier's becoming increasingly unstable, sir. These discharges are happening with greater frequency and intensity." Shaw watched as one of the screens showed an Illyrian ship caught in a discharge. The alien vessel writhed in the energy field before disintegrating completely. "It's not just affecting the Illyrians," Rodriguez noted, her eyes wide. "Look at the readouts on our own systems. These discharges are interfering with all technology in the area." Corporal Reed, who had been quietly observing, suddenly spoke up. "Sir, if I may?" At Steele's nod, he continued. "I've been studying the Illyrian weapons we captured. They seem to be more resilient to these energy fluctuations. Maybe we could adapt some of our defenses using their tech." Steele considered this for a moment. "Good thinking, Reed. Take a team and start working on integrating the Illyrian weapons into our perimeter defenses. You're promoted to sergeant. Consider this your first mission in your new rank." Reed saluted sharply. "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." He hurried off, gathering a group of soldiers as he went. As the newly promoted Sergeant Reed organized the defense, Dr. Rodriguez continued her work on the quantum field generator. Hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Outside, the sounds of battle grew ever closer as Earth's forces engaged the Illyrian invaders. Suddenly, Elena's eyes lit up. "Commander, General, I think I've got something." Shaw and Steele rushed to her station. "What is it, Doctor?" Shaw asked. "The barrier discharges," she explained, her words tumbling out in excitement. "We can use them to power the generator more efficiently. If we can harness that energy, we might be able to create a controlled pulse that could stabilize the barrier and potentially disable the Illyrians' phasing technology." Steele leaned in, studying the data on her screen. "How sure are you about this?" "It's our best shot," Rodriguez replied, "but we'll need to deploy the generator at a strategic location to maximize its effect." Shaw nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. "I'll lead a team to deploy the device. We'll need our best soldiers and scientists. Sergeant Reed's experience with Illyrian tech will be crucial." As Shaw began assembling his team, a priority communication came through. Grand Marshal Vexcor's face appeared on the main screen, his alien features twisted in a snarl. "Humans," he growled, "your resistance is futile. We will not be deterred by your primitive defenses." The transmission cut off abruptly. Moments later, reports flooded in from around the globe. The Illyrians had changed tactics, now targeting power grids and communication networks. Entire cities went dark as the aliens systematically destroyed infrastructure. "They're trying to throw us into chaos," Steele muttered, "prevent us from mounting a coordinated defense." Shaw's team gathered, Equipment packed and weapons ready, Dr. Rodriguez made last-minute adjustments to the portable quantum field generator, her fingers flying over the controls. Remember, Shaw addressed his team, the fate of our entire planet rests on the success of this mission. We deploy this device, we might just have a chance at turning the tide. As they prepared to depart, the facility shook once more, but this time it wasn't from an attack or a barrier discharge. Confused voices called out as sensors registered a dramatic shift in the planet's geomagnetic field. "Sir," a technician shouted, "you're not going to believe this, but our atmospheric sensors are showing rapid healing of the ozone layer. Global weather patterns are stabilizing?" Shaw and Steele exchanged bewildered looks. There was no time to fully process this unexpected development. Whatever was happening, it would have to wait. "We move out now," Shaw ordered. His team nodded, faces set with perseverance as they headed toward the surface and into the chaos of a world under siege. As the doors of the facility opened, they were met with a sky ablaze with energy discharges and swarming with Illyrian ships. The modified quantum field generator hummed softly, a reminder of the monumental task that lay ahead. Shaw took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges to come. With a gesture to his team, they moved out, their steps carrying them towards a confrontation that would determine the fate of humanity. Humanity's survival. The team emerged onto the chaotic streets, immediately assaulted by the cacophony of battle. Illyrian energy weapons sizzled through the air, leaving scorch marks on buildings and vehicles. The quantum barrier pulsed overhead, its unstable energy casting an eerie, flickering light over the devastation. "This way," Shaw shouted, pointing towards a nearby skyscraper. "We need to get to higher ground for maximum effect." As they sprinted across the debris-strewn street, an Illyrian scout ship swooped low, its weapons charging. Sergeant Reed reacted instantly, shouldering his modified alien rifle and firing a burst of energy. The scout ship's shields flickered and failed, allowing Reed's next shot to strike its propulsion system. The craft spiraled out of control, crashing into an abandoned office building in a spectacular explosion. "Nice work, Sergeant," Shaw called out as they reached the base of the skyscraper. "Now let's move." The team piled into the building's lobby, Dr. Rodriguez bringing up the rear with the quantum field generator. They found the emergency stairwell and began their ascent, the sounds of battle growing more distant with each floor they climbed. As they neared the top, Shaw's comm crackled to life. General Steele's voice came through, tight with tension. "Shaw, we're detecting a massive buildup of Illyrian forces. They're preparing for a final push. Whatever you're going to do it fast." "Understood, sir," Shaw replied, his breath coming in ragged gasps as they continued to climb. "We're almost in position." Finally, they burst through the door onto the skyscraper's roof. The vista that greeted them was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The quantum barrier stretched as far as the eye could see, its surface rippling with nearly unleashed energy. Illyrian ships swarmed beneath it, their weapons blazing as Earth's remaining defenses fought back with everything they had. "Set up here," Shaw ordered, indicating a spot near the edge of the roof. "Rodriguez, start the final calibrations. Reed, take your squad and secure our position. We can't let anything interrupt the activation sequence." As Rodriguez worked feverishly on the generator, Reed and his team took up defensive positions around the roof's perimeter. Shaw stood watch, his eyes scanning the horizon for any immediate threats. Suddenly, a group of Illyrian soldiers phased through the roof, their weapons raised. "Contact!" Reed shouted, opening fire with his squad. The roof erupted into chaos as human and alien forces clashed. Reed's experience with Illyrian technology proved invaluable as he anticipated their phasing patterns, calling out positions to his team. "Martinez, on your 6. Chen, target the one trying to flank us." Shaw joined the fray, his pulse rifle spitting rounds at the alien intruders. An Illyrian energy blast grazed his arm, leaving a searing pain, but he gritted his teeth and fought on. "Almost there," Rodriguez called out over the din of battle. "Just a few more seconds." As if sensing the impending threat, the Illyrian assault intensified. More soldiers phased onto the roof, their weapons cutting swaths through the human defenders. Reed's squad was being pushed back, inch by inch. "Hold the line," Shaw roared, firing continuously to keep the aliens at bay. "Rodriguez, we need that generator now." "It's ready," she shouted back. "Commander, you need to activate it manually. The calibrations are too delicate for remote activation." Shaw looked at the raging battle around him, then back at the generator. It was a gamble, but one they had to take. "Reed, cover me." With a nod, Reed unleashed a barrage of suppressing fire, giving Shaw the opening he needed. The commander sprinted across the roof, diving and rolling to avoid enemy fire. He reached the generator, his hand hovering over the activation switch. "Now or never," he muttered and flipped the switch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a low hum emanated from the device, quickly building to a high-pitched whine. Shaw felt a tingling sensation spread through his body, starting at his feet and racing upwards. Suddenly, a brilliant pulse of energy erupted from the generator, engulfing Shaw in a blinding light. He felt the energy surge through him, using his body as a conduit to reach the quantum barrier above. The commander gritted his teeth against the overwhelming sensation, his entire being vibrating with raw power. The pulse shot skyward, striking the barrier with earth-shaking force. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The unstable barrier ignited with a dazzling array of colors, the pulse spreading outward like ripples in a pond. Shaw watched in awe as the energy raced across the globe, leaving a wake of stabilized barrier in its path. Illyrian ships caught in the pulse's path began to lose cohesion. Their phasing technology failed catastrophically, causing hundreds of vessels to materialize inside the barrier itself. The sky lit up with explosions as ships were torn apart or crushed, their debris raining down on the city below. On the roof, the remaining Illyrian soldiers found their weapons and armor malfunctioning. Reed and his squad, seizing the opportunity, launched a counterattack. The aliens, their advanced technology rendered useless, were quickly overwhelmed and subdued. As the pulse completed its journey around the Earth, Shaw felt the energy drain from his body. He staggered, nearly collapsing, but Rodriguez was there to catch him. "You did it, Commander," she said, her eyes wide with wonder as she looked at the now stable barrier above them. "You actually did it." Shaw nodded weakly, his gaze fixed on the transformed skyline. The few remaining Illyrian ships were in full retreat, their once mighty armada reduced to a scattered handful of vessels. "Sir," Reed called out, approaching with a captive in tow. "We've secured the roof, including this one. I believe it's Captain Krell, one of their field commanders." The Illyrian captain glared at Shaw with a mixture of fury and grudging respect. "This battle may be lost," Krell hissed, "but the war is just getting started. The Illyrian Empire spans galaxies. We will return, and next time—" His threat was cut short as the barrier pulsed once more, sending a feedback surge through any remaining Illyrian technology. Krell's armor sparked and sputtered, causing him to cry out in pain before falling unconscious. Shaw's calm crackled to life, General Steele's voice filled with almost unchecked excitement. "Shaw, are you seeing this? The barrier is contracting, forming a protective shell around Earth. And that's not all. Global weather patterns are stabilizing, the ozone layer is regenerating. It's like the planet is healing itself." As the team watched in amazement, the quantum barrier settled into its new configuration, a shimmering shield encasing the Earth just beyond its atmosphere. The sky cleared, revealing a brighter, more vibrant blue than they had seen in years. "What now, Commander?" Rodriguez asked, her voice filled with a mixture of exhaustion and hope. Shaw looked at his team, then out at the transformed world before them. The battle was won, but the work of rebuilding and preparing for the future was just beginning. With a deep breath, he squared his shoulders and prepared to lead humanity into its new era. "Now," he said, his voice filled with quiet commitment, "we start anew."
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.